What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and if you've been suffering through Disney's latest slopfest, you know that Ahsoka has finally ended. But in the aftermath of Season 1, a whole lot of nonsense is happening, and near the end of this video, I'll talk about the future of Star Wars, which will double down in intersectional feminist nonsense that will paint anyone who isn't liberal a literal evil Nazi. You'll see what I mean. Also, spoilers in this video for Ahsoka Season 1, I guess. Although, let's be real, that doesn't even really mean anything, since if you watched it, you know nothing happens anyway. It's a full season where people stand around with their arms folded, convenient things happen, and everything looks devoid of color and meaning. Ahsoka, or should I say Ahsoka, is where dreams go to die, and it's pathetic that the best rendition of the main character the series is based on is in a flashback starring a younger actor who shits all over Rosario Dawson's version, but what can I say about Disney Star Wars that hasn't been said already? This is a franchise like the zombie stormtroopers within it that keeps rising from the grave to surround and consume all the goodwill the fanbase has garnered for decades. Ahsoka is about as pointless as Morgan Elsbeth having her own Twitter emoji, which is, yes, a real thing, I regret to inform you. To begin, it turns out Ahsoka has actually won an award, but for all the wrong reasons. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Ahsoka has been rewarded the coveted Sophie Award. What, you don't know what that is? Well, turns out there's an entire administration that gives these stamps of approval to media that properly features female empowerment in entertainment. And according to the Critic Choice Association, Ahsoka was awarded this too, recognized outstanding new films and television series that illuminate the female experience and perspective through authentically told female-driven stories. This medal is given to media after an all-female committee reviews a product and then deems it worthy. This is the epitome of a participation trophy, but why did Ahsoka get this? Well, according to this committee, a piece of media is eligible for a Sophie Award if they score a 7 or higher out of 10, and guess what Ahsoka got? That's right, it got a big shiny 10 out of 10 from this panel of feminists. Wow, amazing, I can't believe it. This is so groundbreaking. Please clap everyone for women just existing. Thank you. This award is given out based on a few criteria, such as qualifying projects will have a prominent female character arc, give female characters at least equal screen time to male characters, have female leaders behind the scenes, and pass elements highlighted in the Bechdel test. Well, if this is all it takes to get a medal, then all of Disney Star Wars is eligible for this stupid reward. Since every Disney Star Wars series since they bought it has been nothing but female character arcs. And the female characters absolutely have equal screen time to their male ones. Even in the shows where the main character is a guy, he's outshined by others and replaced, like in Mando with girl boss Bo-Katan. That last part is hilarious, by the way, where they say in order to get this medal, they must pass the Bechdel test. Since recently it was reported that the creator behind this test, named Alison Bechdel, made the concept of that test as a joke, and it was never meant to be taken seriously. And Alison Bechdel actually thinks the concept of the Bechdel test is harmful and puts female characters in a box. So when the person who made your bullshit test publicly states the test you use to determine whether something gets your stupid reward or not is bullshit, well, I think that kind of ruins whatever your medal stands for, and it's now nothing more than a coaster for a drink at this point. Bechdel goes on to say that what's really dismaying now is the way so many movies cynically try to take shortcuts and feature strong female characters. But they just have a veneer of strength and they're still not fully developed characters. Oh, I just love to see it, but man is it so true too. As we've had actors in the past like Emily Blunt already state that the concept of strong female characters are moronic to begin with, since they rob all the nuance and interesting parts of what makes women special in order to fit them into a box. Even Emma Thompson, the two-time Oscar winner, thinks the concept of strong female characters and Bechdel tests to be nonsense. She said, and I quote, "So all the women screenwriters I talk to, I say, well, what's the story? Because it's not good enough simply to give the women the guns and then make the women badass as well. Now women have to be badass. If they're feminine in the way that they used to be and they're not badass, they're not welcomed. Also, they're not allowed to cry apparently anymore because we've just got to be like the men." And I remember saying, well, that's not what we meant when I got a group of women together in my 30s and I said, okay, what's the female heroine? Who is that? What does she do? Because she hasn't got the purpose to do the Superman, to do the Godfather, that's not the point. That's not where our heroism lies, so how do we make it heroic? End quote. Emma Thompson is right. Hollywood is ruining female characters for the sake of virtue signaling. And Ahsoka is one of the poster childs of this forces female garbage we've been suffering for way too long at this point. In the ongoing culture war that is modern Disney versus its fans, it seems like nothing they do or make resonates with their paying customers. CEO Bob Iger wants that culture war to end, yet he also pushes bullshit female garbage as he can in order to appease weirdos who don't support things anyways. The big rumor right now is that Ahsoka's second season isn't even set in stone yet, which honestly should worry Disney and the fans of the show immensely, since you'd think a show that is integral to sorting and tying up the loose ends of not only itself, but shows like Mando, Rebels, the Clone Wars, and everything else, which by the way will lead into an heir to the Empire motion picture film, would absolutely get a second season no matter what. But if Ahsoka doesn't get a second season, not only would it ruin the confidence of the audience in the story arc and its importance, it would be Disney openly admitting that the show and what they've been building towards is failing. After all, Ahsoka, in terms of the Nielsen ratings, is dropping off a cliff, with just its 2 premiere episodes doing worse than Book of Boba Fett. Not only that, but Ahsoka at the end of September, going into its final few episodes, fell off the top 10 most watched shows entirely, with shows like One Piece and CoComelon shitting all over Ahsoka and stealing any cultural relevance. CoComelon, dude, freaking CoComelon is killing Ahsoka. Like, really, how far have we fallen? And when comparing Ahsoka's 3rd week on streaming, its numbers fell to Andor levels, which is bad. That is really bad. Even Kathleen Kennedy tried to spin a PR move and claim Ahsoka was this big success when it really wasn't once the dust is settled. Not to mention, just in terms of what happens in the show, there, well, really isn't much to talk about. Nobody really does anything for most of it. Hera just flies her son into dangerous situations and proves child services should get involved and just relieve her of parenthood entirely. Ahsoka just stands there cross-armed and stares at people, and Sabine is honestly more the main character in a show not even named after her. But at this point, having side characters outperform or be featured more prominently than the character these shows are named after is nothing new. Then you have IGN, who gave the finale a 9 out of 10. Which, I mean, I already didn't take IGN's review scores seriously, but this is just taking the piss at this point. Everything surrounding Disney Star Wars and the fans' reception towards it feels as if it's being manipulated to seem grander than it actually is. At least some companies aren't lying, like Hasbro for example, who according to another rumor, deliberately chose to not make toys based on the Ahsoka series because they believe there wouldn't be any demand for it. According to YouTuber WDW Pro, who said, and I quote, "What I'm told is that Hasbro essentially took a pass and Disney allowed them to take a pass. Now folks, we're in rumor and speculation territory. We've got 2 sources reporting this to us, but rumor and speculation territory, I cannot corroborate this." Apparently, Hasbro was given the opportunity to do a wait-and-see model with Ahsoka, and they are waiting and they are not seeing because I'm told you can pretty much count on nothing more coming out for the Christmas season. My understanding, there are Black Series action figures for Ahsoka, but they are in an extremely limited run. That's what one of the sources is telling us, extremely limited, bare minimum run. And it's essentially to satisfy collectors, but there's no demand in terms of the young demographic. According to the source, Disney has experienced a significant decrease in their retail space within the top non-closeout retailers in the US. Now, this is not just Star Wars, this is everything Disney, losing nearly 40% of their retail. This decrease affects all sections except baby and preschool categories. Disney expanded its retail space when it acquired Marvel and Star Wars due to the increased appeal to boys. However, the appeal to boys is largely gone, and thus the retail has shrunk for Disney by 40%. Today, Lucasfilm does not compare its performance to both the original trilogy and prequel eras, citing the differences in times. In other words, Lucasfilm does not permit comps when it comes to the eras pre-Disney to now. Today, Disney would drool on the floor for prequel metrics. Prequel metrics, not original. And how much are we in a difference right now? According to the source, although I cannot fully corroborate this, full price sales for Star Wars today are down 65%. One final point that really shows just how poorly Disney has performed, the best year at Kenner for Star Wars merchandise sales back during the time of the original trilogy would easily, adjusted for inflation, outperform all the merchandise sales of the Disney Star Wars era every single year Disney has owned it combined that coming from one of our highest placed sources, end quote. It's sobering and eye-opening to see just how poorly Disney Star Wars is performing in pretty much every facet of its existence right now, and that sales for Disney-era Star Wars has been on the decline since around 2016, with even comics and novels being affected by this. So basically, from where we are right now with what Disney has done to the brand, Star Wars is a relic of its glory days. The brand has largely been destroyed by weirdos with gender study degrees, and with pretty much every single show and movie under Disney's vision featuring strong female characters, it's not only gotten boring, but it's very predictable too. The only place where Star Wars still seems to thrive is in the video game space, since collaborations with brands like Fortnite or games like Jedi Survivor still do relatively well. But to say Star Wars is past its prime is evident no matter how deep in the news sauce you are. And now Disney is pushing the entire Star Wars movie catalog onto other networks in order to monetize and make money off of what they already own. It's a noble idea, but the concept of watching 9 movies, each hours long in a row with commercials breaking up the pace every 10 minutes, dude, that sounds like a suite of hell I don't want to ever experience myself. Also, the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, which costed Disney well over $1 billion to make, has now officially closed its doors now that September has passed. This is yet another monumental failure of Kathleen Kennedy and her yes men, who moronically decided to feature the Disney sequel trilogy as the basis of this hotel instead of George Lucas's original trilogy. It also doesn't help that the hotel costed literally thousands of dollars a night either, which definitely did not help either. But in a way, the damage Disney has done to Star Wars as a brand is reaching a new final form where anything they do now is met with trepidation and skepticism instead of wonder and love. And I'll end this video with the Acolyte, whose trailer leaked a few days back, and obviously I can't show it without Mickey Mouse's assassins trying to kill me. But that trailer, which yet again features a strong female character in the leading role, which is just so boring at this point, has this one line where they say this isn't about good or bad, it's about power and who's allowed to use it. And this line brings ill tidings, since the Acolyte's creator, Leslie Headland, has already confirmed that the show will question the status quo of the era we're living in, as in real life. So the Acolyte will be another Force is female supercharged piece of media, and it worries me when I read that line and what it's insinuating. That the Force isn't about good or bad, but in the end all that matters is power and who's allowed to use it. In a way, what I gather from this is that Headland is saying the Force, or social media, and the power over corporate, intellectual properties like Star Wars itself, are not about which side of the fandom is right or not. Only that the existence of Star Wars, or the power if you will, exists to be wielded and molded by who's allowed to abuse its legacy, like Headland, Kennedy, and more. Star Wars has successfully been ruined by intersectional femininity, and it's worrying to say the least. The show is likely going to be a commentary on politics of liberal versus conservatives, and they'll probably make the villains an embodiment of what they consider to be the toxic fandom that hates them. And Leslie Headland is right. This is about power and who's wielding it. And it's clear that with Disney holding the reins to Star Wars, like the dark side itself, they are corrupting and destroying everything it once stood for until it becomes what they want it to be. Like Order 66, Disney has all but infiltrated and radicalized the once proud fandom, and reduced it to a shell of itself built on lies and anger. The dark side may have the power for now, but hopefully the real fandom can win this and bring Star Wars back into the light. Because the longer Disney is allowed to ruin the legacy of George Lucas by dismantling all the core pillars of what made his life's work so important to the world in the first place, what we're left with is a power, or a force, that is being wielded by those who hate you and see you as nothing but cannon fodder to fuel their ambitions. It's wild that the more you think about how Disney has ruined Star Wars, the more they're like the Sith than anything else. In a way, George Lucas was Qui-Gon Jinn, a man who, if he survived the battle against Darth Maul, would have ensured Anakin would never have joined the dark side. But without the warm guiding hand of Jinn, or Lucas in this case, what we're left with is a property of immense potential and power being molded by the hands of people who care nothing for the legacy of what they hold. All they see is the power this franchise brings, the temptations of what absolute power can accomplish. And they're not afraid to become corrupted by it if it means they get to use it for themselves. The Acolyte will likely become a nuclear demon core charged feminist superweapon of the likes we haven't seen, even when compared to Ahsoka or Rey. A perfect being molded by the hands and minds of the industry's most insufferable feminists, joining like Dark Avengers to usher in their own Darth Palpatine level female horror. A future where everything is ruined, words have no meaning, and the Force and what it stands for has become devoid of all meaning by people who genuinely hate the fan base they are supposed to serve. The Force may be female in the eyes of Disney, but in the hearts of the fandom, Star Wars has never been in a worse state than it is right now. And the blame fully falls upon the hairy little shoulders of Mickey Mouse and his corrupted friends. Hopefully, one day Star Wars can redeem themselves. But until then, my friends, never stop fighting. Have a great day, subscribe and like the video to help the channel out, and if you use G Fuel, you can use my code or the link in the comment or description. Have a great day everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.